Hi, everybody. As you can see, I'm in a hotel room here in Birmingham. Um, I am testing out some camera equipment, doing, trying to make these videos a little bit better and a little bit better quality. And I was trying to figure out something I wanted to talk about, so I could try some new programs and stuff. Um, but I really worked later than I intended to today, so I didn't have time to do any research on any topics. But it occurred to me that some of you may not know me, or if you have, you may not have seen me in a long time. Don't know. You may have just been a casual friend and may not know much about me. And so I thought I would just do a quick little video, just kind of telling who I am and why I'm doing these videos. And there's several reasons why. We'll just get that out of the way right off the bat. One of it's just for fun. It's something to do, and I have fun with it. The other is that I do the camera work right now anyway for my church. So it helps me do the videos, get used to the videos and how to edit them, and just try to make a better presentation. So it's just a different a way for me to practice, I guess you'd say. And the third thing is I have things I want to say, rant about or whatever, that you can't always get in a post, or sometimes it's better to hear it by word of mouth. But if you don't know me, my name is Gabe Elkins, obviously. I grew up in Florence, Alabama. Was there a good bit of my life, and raised, had two loving parents that are still together today and mean the world to me today, and learned so much from them. And I had a little brother that we had wars, wiffle ball wars in the backyard, and just had an overall. Of course, we had our bumps in the road, but we just had an overall good life. Growing up. When I was really young, somebody, I think my grandfather. Speaking of my grandfather, he passed away when I was about a year old, or I'm sorry, about a week old, and he nicknamed me the Mouth of the South because I talked a lot. But when he passed away, we moved in with my family moved in with my grandmother. So kind of had two mothers growing up. So I got double the love, and kind of probably got spoiled more than I should, me and Andy both. But I grew up when I was really young talking a whole lot. And then something happened. I don't know, it wasn't anything traumatic or anything. I don't know what happened, but over time I became shy, and stayed that way for most of the rest of my life. And that guy still pops up every once in a while, that shyness. But struggled with self-esteem through high school and school and stuff, and had bad self-esteem, thought everybody else was better than me, and stuff like that, and really had a hard time with it. I did meet a guy, in about fifth grade, named Joel Frederick, that kept bugging me until I finally came to his church. And once I got to Creekside, which was a college church at the time, I just fell in love with it, and I learned so much from those people and that youth group about God and about doing things. We had great leaders. Not only the youth minister, Billy Counts, and we also had Charles Frederick that was the youth minister for a little while, and was always around. And for those of you that know me, know that he's one of my main mentors to me. But there was always people around. But we had like leaders in the group too. Stan Peck and Tammy Brown, who's Tammy Spake now, and Joel, and just several leaders, which is a good thing and a bad thing. It was good because I had all those leadership people there to help me and stuff, but it was a bad thing because when they moved off to college and stuff, I was kind of looked at to, or I felt I was looked at to be a leader, and it was just not something I was ready to do. I was, like I said, struggling with self-esteem, and it's hard to be a leader if you don't think you're as good as other people. So I kind of rebelled against that a little bit, and moved to, like I said, grew up in Florence, but moved to Huntsville for about 10 years. Met some really, really good people there, and just enjoyed my time there, but it just was never home. So I moved back in about 2009, stayed in Florence till about 2013, and then moved to Leeton from 2013 up until January of this year. And now I'm back in Florence again. But just a really good place to grow up, nice town, everything like that. And just like I said, I grew up shy, but around 2009, and I'll reference 2009 a lot because that was a big year in my life. It was a terrible year in a lot of ways, but I'll get into that a little bit more later. But you'll hear me reference 2009 a lot. But in 2009, I kind of came out of that shyness because, like I said, it was a terrible year, the worst year I've ever had. But it was also a great year in the aspect that I grew so much from it. And it was almost like a year of rebirth, if you will, or rejuvenation. Like I said, I had low self-esteem till that point. That hasn't been a problem much since then. I don't think anybody's better than me. I don't think I'm better than anybody else either. But it's just a different feeling, and there's a lot of reasons for that. We had a lot of people help me with advice and stuff, but ultimately it was God that just showed me that He's looking out for me in my life, and that I have worth. And so I found my worth, my identity in Christ, which brings me to the next topic. I have a Christian conservative worldview, a very strong Christian conservative worldview. But the first word's the most important, is Christian. And that's, where I focus a lot on, which a lot of y'all are going to be surprised at, because most of y'all only see me on Facebook. And my philosophy on Facebook is that I use it to kind of vent in a way about political stuff, and let my opinions known on stuff and like that. And I do post Christian stuff, but I don't overtly do Christian things on there. And it's just my personal philosophy. I think that I hate the term lead someone to Christ, because I don't think we ever lead anybody to Christ, but we help them along the way. God leads them there ultimately, but but I think that has to be a more personal thing that I'm better at in person doing that. I rarely talk about politics in person. Most people that I work with or whatever, when they do join Facebook or we become friends on Facebook, they're surprised that that I'm so voiceful about political stuff, because they never hear it. And so and like I said, I know a lot of you will be surprised to hear that because you only know me from Facebook. But that's just how I view things. That's just how I do it. And I have a lot of people that questions things I say, and I like it. Sometimes I'll be honest, sometimes it gets on my nerves, if it's over and over and over. But a lot of it has helped me be a better Christian and be a better, conservative and stuff, because I have to know what I'm talking about to do it. But that's just a little intro there, and then I'm going to do a few little questions here coming up. So, okay, the first question was, how important is faith to me? And the cliche thing to say is it's the most important thing, which it is. But it means a lot to me because I know what God has done for me. I've seen God firsthand work in my life. Like I said earlier, 2009 was a very bad year, and a lot of it I brought on myself. Made some mistakes and had to, pay some prices, for those mistakes. And the people at Creekside have heard the story a lot, but I, got home, moved back to Florence, and started going back to Creekside. And one of the first Sundays, went forward and asked for forgiveness and, for some stuff I had done, and just needed to get some stuff off my chest. And a few weeks later, I'm still kind of beating myself up, and I'm sitting on the front pew for some reason. I don't know if I just walked up there or what, but after the service, I'm sitting there, and one of the elders at the time comes up to me, and he sits down, and he says, "You're still, beating yourself up about the stuff you asked for forgiveness for a few weeks ago, right?" And I said, "Well, yes, sir." And he said, "How dare you?" And said a little bit of a voice. Well, this is a tough guy. He said, "How dare you keep throwing what God's already forgiven back up in His face?" He said, "God's already taken care of it. It's done. You don't have to worry about that anymore." And that just really reinforced, really changed. That one little sentence he said changed my life in a lot of ways, because it opened my eyes to what God's done to me, and that He's forgiven me. And sometimes I need little weird things like that to open my eyes. Another one, about a year ago, having a discussion with a former youth group member that's no longer a Christian on Facebook about something, and the conversation wasn't really going his way. And so, like a lot of people do, he switched it to an attack. And he said something to the point of, "Gabe, you need to be careful, because I know your sins." And I knew what he was talking about. He was talking about a particular sin when we were in a youth group, and I knew exactly which one because of I knew he knew the situation. And I just said, so and so, if you feel the need to post that, to try to shut me up, then go ahead. I said, I'm not a slave to my. I said it just right off the top of my head without thinking about it. I said, I'm not a slave to my sins. And then I kind of like, whoa, I was like, I'm not a slave to my sins. I don't have to worry about those. Jesus is taking care of all that stuff. And, it's just crazy to think about the price He paid for us and stuff, and how much He loves us. And I wish everybody could see it. I know a lot of people don't, but I wish you could. There's people I pray for on Facebook. There's, agnostics and atheists that I know very well, that I think a lot of, that I pray for. And we pray for at my church a lot, whether they know it or not. But, it's just, it's like I said, it's the most important thing in our lives, ultimately. We get hung up in jobs and politics and all this other stuff, but getting to heaven's ultimately the most important thing. Another question is, how did I get into preaching? Well, that's a kind of a long story, but kind of a funny story. Or it's not long, but I never saw myself as a preacher, ever. And I consider myself more of a speaker, really. But just so you know, my church has a rotation of guys that speak, and I'm one of them. I speak once about every 6 weeks or so. But how that came about was another member of the congregation was not comfortable for whatever reason, because really smart guy, but and really good speaker, but he wasn't comfortable speaking by himself. So he would do a topic, and then I would come up behind him and do a topic. And eventually he decided he wanted to go on and do other parts of the ministry or whatever. And he, didn't want to be in a speaking role anymore, which is, absolutely fine. So they asked me if I would be willing to speak on my own. And, the first time I did it, like I said, I never saw myself doing any of this, speaking or, at church and stuff. And, the first time I did it, it went over really well. And, the more I did it, the more I got comfortable. But I had a lot of encouragement from Jason Fox, who's passed away now. But at the time, he was the youth minister at Creekside, and he really encouraged me to speak. And he was like, he said, I know you don't realize it, but you've got a talent for it. And he said, you have good things to say, and we need to hear you, so I want you to keep speaking. And he also encouraged me to also speak boldly and, not sugarcoat things, which sometimes gets me in trouble a little bit. But it's something I've always kept in mind, and I really love him for that. I appreciate him for that and miss him a lot. He died a few years ago. But what's my philosophy as far as helping people to Christ? That's a tricky one because it's different for each person that you talk to, obviously. I've already said that I don't like the term lead somebody to Christ, but I would put it like this. Growing up, I was a decent basketball player, but I was never, on the teams that I played on that were really good, I was never the guy. I was never Michael Jordan. I was more of a Scottie Pippen, if you will. I could do a little bit of everything good, but I wasn't like an absolutely great scorer, or I wasn't like fantastic at anything, but I was okay at a lot of stuff. I could shoot the three pretty good. I could rebound decent. I could block shots pretty good, and not the best dribbler, not making it pretty anyway, but I could get it done. I played all 5 positions. In church league and stuff. I never played for a school team or anything like that, but just to relate that to leading somebody to Christ, that's kind of how I approach that too. I wouldn't say I'm really good at any one area, but I'm decent at a lot of things, and I know that I'm not a closer as far as getting somebody to Christ. I mean, I heard a guy on the radio explain it like you're harvesting crops, and there's people that harvest the crop, and that's the people that finish it up and get them into church and stuff. And I'm not good at that yet. I'm not there yet. But so my role kind of is the way I look at it is to kind of put a pebble in their shoe, I guess you would say, to make them think about things that let's say abortion or something like that it is a human life and stuff like that, or just sin in general, that just give people a different way of looking at things, because there's a lot of misconceptions out of Christians about Christians and stuff. We don't hate gay people and all that, and I have to go through a lot of that, but that's kind of where all that came from. I just try to pick my spots and help where I can and answer any questions. I've never ran away from a question on Facebook and I've got some friends that ask some pretty tough religious questions that I have to study for. And I told one of my agnostic friends one time that he made me a better Christian because I have to really study and know what I'm talking about, or he's going to make me look like an idiot. And we don't want to do that. I never want to make that mistake of not being fully prepared. Which still learning. So there's going to be times that I have to say, I don't know, let me go look, or there's been times that I've misinterpreted stuff, and I've went back and I've said, hey, we were talking about this a few weeks ago, how I've been reading about it, and this is actually what it means. I had it wrong. So, and also being a Christian, I don't think that I'm better than anybody else. I'm a sinner. I still struggle with sin. We love, Christians love Jesus, but we also love sin because we're human. And there's a lot of things I have to ask for forgiveness for, and that don't mean I'm a bad person per se, but just that I'm human, and but I realize who to take that to, and that's where I differ from somebody that doesn't have Christ in their life, and it's just hard to imagine not having that that strength there with you, and that forgiveness and love to know that you're loved by the Creator of the universe. It's just an awesome thing. But I wish everybody could get that, but unfortunately a lot of people don't. But okay, the next question is, how did I get interested in politics? Because that's what a lot of people know me for on Facebook. And that starts in 2009 again. I had moved back home, was staying with mom and dad for a while, and my dad always had on Fox News in the afternoon. He was laid off at the time, so we were home together a lot, and he would have Fox News on, and he didn't really watch the show a lot, but it was always the show before the show he liked to watch. But he would always have this guy on in the afternoons named Glenn Beck, and I would kind of be walking through, and I'd hear bits and pieces and stuff like that. And for a long time, I didn't pay a whole lot of attention to it. And the thing that really just got me interested in paying attention and hooked on it was a kind of a combination of things that started with the day Obamacare was passed. And I just could not believe that they were able to shove a bill down the American people's throat that nobody wanted, or the majority of people didn't want. And and there was a lot of strong arm tactics going on. And I thought, I might need to just start paying some attention here and see what's going on, because I had never paid attention to politics to this point. So I started, watching the show, listening to it, and around that time he had a thing called Founding Fathers Fridays, and I'm watching it, and I'm like, I was a history major in college. I didn't graduate, but I was a history major, and I was like, this is not what I was told, and I was like, this, and at first I was like, this isn't true. This guy don't know what he's talking about. Well, then he, they showed a lot of it where it was coming directly from their writings and this and that. And so I started researching it and started looking at the writings myself, and became more and more interested, and became a fan of Glenn Beck's to start with. And that's kind of how I got into it, and just started really just dove into mainly the history part at first, and because all this stuff I've been told that the founding fathers were racist and that they were deists and that we weren't founded on Christian principles is just absolutely not true, and so I started watching him, which led me to start listening to another guy named David Barton too, who's a Christian historian, and just kind of spread out to all these different people that I listened to. And over time, I realized that I'm pretty good at it. I can, I'm good at seeing things politically before they happen. Especially with progressives and the left, because I can see where they're heading a lot of times, and I've learned a lot of their tricks, and read some of the Saul Alinsky stuff, and it just evil stuff. But so I've learned how to spot that because I realized how prevalent it is in our lives, whether we realized it or not. And so then I got where I was speaking out about it, and speaking back against stuff, and sometimes I probably don't do it the right way, but I'm still learning how to do all this. I learned something today, that I had been a subject I'd been approaching one way forever, and I was just listening to a random interview, and this lady was like, if you come at it this way, as a former liberal, I would just completely turn off, and so you've lost me before you even get to your point. And I was like, that makes sense. But I do a lot of reading. I listen a lot. I do a lot of audiobooks because I drive a lot, so I have a lot of time to listen and stuff. And I'm not saying I'm always right on this kind of stuff, but I have a pretty good track record of being right. So it's just and I do admit when I'm wrong. I do it publicly because I was absolutely convinced that Trump was going to be terrible. I was a never Trumper, and I even did a sermon on it. Thought he was going to be like Hitler and all this stuff because just because of what his past was telling me he was going to be like. And I didn't really think about the fact that he was saying that he had become a Christian, and and it obviously he's changed. I mean, in my opinion, he's been one of the best presidents we've had. Definitely one of the best in my lifetime. I would say he's top 10, definitely top 5, maybe. Especially when you consider all the fake stuff they've thrown at him and all the hate for no reason they've thrown at him. But I had to get on there because I was very hard on people that supported Trump and argued and just totally missed that one. And so I had to get on Facebook and say, hey, look, guys, I missed it. I'm sorry, And I did that right about the time right after he announced that he was moving the capital to Israel, or to Jerusalem, Israel's capital to Jerusalem. And it was, that was just like the final thing that was like, okay, this guy's, better on religious liberty, better on a lot of things that I've done, that I've looked for in other people that let me down. So, so I had to get on there and admit it, that I was wrong on it. And, but I gave him a chance. That's what I always told people. I would give him a chance, just like I gave Obama a chance. Now, in my opinion, Obama was one of the worst presidents ever. So that he, in my opinion, completely quickly let me know I was right about what I thought about him. But I wanted him to be good, especially being the first black president. I mean, I obviously wanted him to do well and stuff. One of the things I hear a lot is that conservatives hate people, and that same thing with Christians, conservatives and Christians, whatever. They hate people, they hate gays, they're racist, and I've seen none of that. Most of the stuff that I see out there is either lies or they've misconstrued stuff. I know I don't hate anybody, and if you're good to me, I'm good to you. Most of the time, and now I'm gonna let my views be known, but that a lot of times that's out of love. And that's a conversation for a different day, but. Anyway, I just wanted to kind of let everybody know just a little bit about me. Like I said, and I'm like working on this new editing program, and I needed some footage to use. But like I said, it's just for fun. But if you want to subscribe, I'm gonna try to put a subscribe button down there that you can hit to the YouTube channel. That's up to you if you want to or not, because I'm going to keep posting videos from time to time. And also, you can see the sermons from Creekside. I've actually created a separate YouTube page for that, but you can see them on my Facebook page as well on Sundays, probably Sunday afternoons now that I have to do the editing and stuff. So, but y'all have a good day or good rest of your day, and just be safe out there and love everybody.